Welcome to the Crime Dawg Podcast with your host and content creator, Johnny FIORICA, who graduated from Brockport College, claims it to be the Harvard of the SUNY system. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome to the Crime Dawg Podcast. Your host, content creator, Johnny FIORICA, RPD, 30-year detective, recently retired about 6 months ago. Sitting alongside my two trusted co-hosts, first up on deck, 20-year plus RPD veteran, retired, legendary street cop, undercover cop, SWAT cop, homicide detective, David Simpson. Welcome to the pod.
Happy to be here, boys.
David, I'm going to give you a slow clap.
Golf nice, clap. Jay. Glad you came off vacation to give me a little clap.
That was aggressive, but you're welcome.
This isn't going to be good. I can already feel it. Anyways, that voice you just heard, that beautiful face with those sweet lettuce locks. He served the Flower City 2.5 decades. He worked Genesee Lake Clinton section. He worked all over the rock. Lead negotiator for the RPD hostage team, currently self-proclaimed alpha male of this podcast and self-proclaimed 1994 Hall of Famer, Jason Blanchard. Jason, welcome to the pod.
Jonathan, hell of an intro. Thank you. Notice baseball season starting this week. Yankees on, tied for first right now, right? We'll see how long that lasts. But right now they are presently in first place. So fantastic.
Did I see a game like I possibly might have been somewhere with wifey yesterday. Was there a game on? They're playing like Puerto Rico or Venezuela or something?
Mexico.
Well, they played in Korea. They opened the season this year in Korea. Not North. They weren't with
the Yankees didn't.
No. I'm talking about the major league season opened in Korea.
No, I know, but I thought the Yankees played somebody yesterday.
Mexico. They're in Mexico.
That a boy,
okay.
David.
Listen, that's why we're not doing
Boston sucks.
Boston does suck. Tell Kirk Pirro.
Oh, man.
That's why I did it.
Pirro's going to be laying in his bushes tomorrow morning after that comment. I sent Pirro all my Boston stuff. That's actually pretty funny. It's actually pro Boston. I don't know why it's on my feed because I like a bunch of shit that they talk about, but I instant message Pirro with it because he's such a diehard Bo Sox guy, him and Scotty Peters.
Total loser.
But I always... Huh?
Not Scotty Peter, just Pirro, total loser.
Oh,
Boston.
Yeah.
Johnny, one more sports shout out.
Yeah, sure.
I believe RIT hockey, David, correct? Who are they playing? Are they playing Boston
BC.
or BC? BC?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
okay.
Boston College.
I didn't think it was BC. I thought it was another Boston hockey. I don't know, buddy.
It's either Boston University or Boston College. I believe it's Boston College.
I thought it was Boston University. One of us will be right. So either way, go RIT.
Go Tigers.
My nephew, you're one of your biggest fans, J-Dog, Michael Rotolo, 4-year starter at RIT.
Love him.
Huge animal in goal for the Tigers for years. Fearless. And I think he's Eddie Mack, by the way. Shout out to Eddie Mack, my love. One of my great bosses that I work for. He sent me a text a couple of days ago. He was saying that my nephew doesn't say anything to anybody, kind of like I did my whole career. Everyone's like, we find shit out about my nephew later. Apparently he's doing color commentary for RIT right now. I didn't even know that, but
he's one of my favorite Fioricas, way higher than you.
I know I'm way down the total. But listen, speaking of problems, I want to just kind of give our listeners some insight. Give what I like to call a behind the curtain view. You know, there was some spirited text exchanges between the CDP Boys, which is the Crime Dawg Podcast staff, with our producer Danny Agnew last week. It actually rose to the point where Jason made the comment of, "Hey, by the way, you two losers, I'm going to break off and do my own podcast with Danny Agnew," again, our producer, which we always mention Danny. Shout out Danny. But anyways, he said he was going to steal Danny from us and then do his own pod.
Danny doesn't want him.
But the pod, David, was just going to be a podcast totally dedicated to Jason bashing me.
Right, that's correct. That was correct.
Could you? Is that still in the works, Jay? Or what?
How's that coming, Jay?
We're under contract negotiations right now with Barstool. Actually, they're looking to get us, and we're looking to do like a Jersey Jerry sort of thing. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for it.
Listen,
Jersey Joe, you're going to have the beef with like he's got the dude from Entourage?
Yes, correct.
listen, I have one thing to say, and it pains me.
I was right. Here it comes. Go ahead.
Fuck, it kills me. He was right. The hockey guy was wrong. Jay was right. RIT's playing Boston University. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
You.
Fuck your
BU.
podcast, Jay.
Listen, man, I know I'm a shameless plugger. BU, Matty Lane. Shout out to Matty Lane, was a BU boy. He played in BU on Eichel's line back in the day. I call him my nephew. I do claim
His fiance was my kid's nanny.
Oh, was she? She's a sweetheart, by the way. She's
Enough
nice.
7 degree separation. You know, I mean, are you all
Small
set
town.
now?
Small town.
I wouldn't want to paint it. All right, boys. So we got a good pod today for everybody that's going to listen. We call them the triple S's, the three S's. And by the way, I know I talk my hands and Danny gets mad. I shake all over the place, but I can't handle it. I'm Italian. What are you going to do? So anyway, so we're going to talk about the three S's today. We're going to talk about squatters, sanctuary cities, and soldiers. Soldiers being the National Guard. We got a lot of hot topics to talk about, guys. Let's start off with the squatters because, and we're going to define it for you. The Googles. Squatter is a person who settles or occupies a piece of property with no legal claim to the property. Squatter lives on the property to which they have no title, right, or legal lease to. There's a Venezuelan guy that has been all over, viral videos of this effing D-bag going all over the place. He's got millions and millions of views. It's been all over the national media. He's telling everybody that he's got this way to go into U.S. houses and squat and obtain property for free, basically. He's done multiple videos. Danny, you're going to drop that video right now for us. Thanks.
Una casa en United States.
In his most recent controversial TikTok video, Moreno is telling his followers to avoid living on the streets in the United States. They can, quote, invade empty homes and live there, saying under U.S. law, if a house is uninhabited, it can be seized, referring to squatting rights in our country. That video garnered almost 4 million views. In past videos, the illegal migrant bragged that he came to the United States to vacation and now lives off U.S. taxpayers because he had a child in this country. He also tells his followers that he waits for Americans' hard-earned pension checks to come in every month. In another video, he is urging fellow Venezuelans to pay the fines of a 15-year-old migrant who allegedly shot a tourist in Times Square, saying, quote, today it could be him, tomorrow it could be one of you. But this recent video on squatting is making headlines as Moreno tells his comrades that if they fix up an abandoned home that is deteriorated or in bad condition, they can get credits when the properties are sold.
So as you can see, this kid, I call him a kid because he looks like he's 12 to me. I'm 54. But anyways, you know, he drops this video and he's got basically what Danny dropped for us was a culmination of like 2 videos. The first or one of the videos was him saying, squat, come here and squat, and I'll tell you how to do it. And then the other one was disgustingly showing his beautiful daughter on camera saying, look, I have a daughter. She's now an American citizen. You too could come here, have babies, and get everything for free, basically. I actually, shamefully, was a victim of squatting. I had a property that I owned in Central Florida. Cliff Note story. Did short-term rentals out of there until some guy squatted in there. I had a cool company called Ventura Resort Rentals, which was pretty much run by all women, and they were so cool. They ended up basically saying, Johnny, we're going to go after this guy. We're going to hound him. I said, girls, hold on a second. I don't need this guy chopping down my drywall and put hoses in between the walls. And next thing you know, he's going to flood a bunch of units that I'm going to have to pay for. Let him squat. Let's do it legal. I sent my attorneys on him. And then he ended up staying in my unit. And this was like 15, 18 years ago, staying in my unit for like 3-4 months, maybe close to 5 months for like 1 month's rent. It's become more and more prevalent now. You're seeing that New York City incident that they had. A homeowner actually got arrested. It was her property, trying to evict and kick out squatters. It's disgusting. Of course, why do we mention squatters? Because guess what happens? Law enforcement always gets dragged into shit, right? We get dragged into this. Who are they going to call when there's an issue? They're going to call the cops. They're going to call my brothers and sisters to come mediate like they do all the time, right? Who call 911? Call 911. My brothers and sisters got to show up, get thrown right in the middle of this shitbag mess. And David, now all of a sudden, we got squatters all over this country. It's becoming more prevalent. And you got this little D-bag Venezuelan kid encouraging people to come to this country, illegally, by the way, and also squat.
You know, as someone that's involved in real estate, you know, the name of the game in real estate is you use as little of your own money as possible to buy properties. And then what you do is you then leverage bank money to buy more properties. And your rent is paid to the bank to pay down your mortgages. So over a long period of time, you have a number of properties that are, you know, paid off. Not many people in the real estate game pay cash for their properties. That's a misnomer. Landlords aren't walking around and paying cash for their properties. It's bad business, or at least it was. Your rent goes to pay down that mortgage. So when you're letting people squat and you make it so people can effectively get past the 30-day mark and not pay any more rent and can't be removed until you go through the legal process, which if you're in New York City, could take 2 years. If you're in Rochester, it could take a year before you get them out, 6 months. As a landlord, you still have to pay the bank. It's not like it's like some wealthy landlord that, you know, all these are paid cash and he can afford to like let these people live for free. That's a total misnomer. So it just again goes to show you how screwed up New York State is, in that they allow people to effectively take over people's property when they owe money on these properties to the banks. So that's the first thing, is again, it just gives rights again to criminals. Again, it's the criminal element. It's the people that are going to take things that's not theirs. And the politicians in Albany, again, I always harp on it, again, side with that element versus the reputable, good landlord. There are bad landlords and they should be held accountable for it. But the good landlords that are keeping their buildings up, that need the rent to pay their mortgages, have no rights right now in New York. You have none. And to take it a step further, a young lady on March 14th, Nadia Vitals, she's from Spain. She comes back to New York City to her mother's apartment. She goes to her mother's apartment. Her mother had just died. She finds 2 squatters in her apartment. She confronts them. They kill her and they put her in a duffel bag. 2 squatters that were just staying a little longer at, you know, not paying rent, ended up killing this lady who owned the apartment when she came to confront them. So I bring up this because, again, it seems that New York politicians enact laws that again favor the criminal element and not the good citizens of New York, the majority. And that just always will befuddle me. I don't understand it.
Jay, he makes some good points. I mean, we got, you know, these squatters coming here. Not only are they squatters, you know, U.S. squatters, but now we have undocumented illegal aliens, illegal people here in this country now squatting. And they always drag law enforcement into it.
Well, David, first of all, thank you for the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac economic lesson. I appreciate that. That was really nice of you. So thank you for walking us through that. You're the best.
Never use your own money, Jay.
I just love getting on you, David. So Johnny, you're right. This isn't a criminal matter. But what happens is, just like you said, 911 gets called and the landlord's standing there and he's saying, hey, listen, this person's been living in my property for free and so on and so forth. And it's a civil matter. We all understand that as police officers when we go to these. But the problem is 2 things happened. First of all, COVID happened. And COVID happened, and basically people were told, you don't have to pay your rent and you're not going to get evicted. You're not going to get tossed out. The landlords aren't going to put you out. The world stopped, except for, you know, EMTs and police and fire and all the doctors and nurses who had to go to work. The world didn't stop for those people, but the world stopped for a good majority of people who work from home, and some opted to, you know, to not pay their rent and everything else. And you know, David, as you said, these landlords, these property owners still have to pay the bank, you know, the note on that, their monthly payment. So
the mortgage.
You got it. So they're hustling to make that money, to make that payment, to not default. And people are living there for free for years. And New York did property owners no favors with trying to expedite any evictions, you know, and again, most of this falls in the civil matter. It's not criminal with what they're doing, because they're in essence allowed to stay there by the courts until they go before. And as Dave said, it could be 6, 9, 12 months before these eviction notices are heard. And a lot of the times the courts will hear them and they'll push it down the road even further, and they'll give them another 30, 60, 90 days to do whatever they're going to do. So I feel bad for the legitimate property owners, not just in the city of Rochester, but in New York State, but the city of Rochester I can speak about because I've seen it. And I mean, I wouldn't take a rental property if you gave it to me for free. It's not, in my opinion, I wouldn't want the headaches. I give those owners a ton of credit because they're doing their best and they're trying to maintain their properties for the most part. 95% of those owners are good people. 5% are, the slumlords that are just trying to make a buck. But it's difficult, and you try to vet to get the right tenants in there, and who you may vet isn't end up who's staying there because the tenant moves out and somebody moves in and 2 weeks later they've established residency and now you don't even know who the heck's in your unit and you're trying to evict them. So it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare.
I'm sorry. I'll still never understand how that's not a theft. As someone that, if you're taking money out of my pocket or in Johnny's story, his pocket by not paying him and refusing to pay him, I'll never understand. And you've signed a contract that you have to pay to get this in return. I'll never understand how that isn't a theft.
Well, if you walked out of Wegmans with a cart full of groceries, right, it's petty larceny,
Right.
And you didn't pay for them. But you can live in a place for a heck of a lot more than a grocery full of a grocery cart full of groceries, and nobody seems to be worried about that.
No problem.
Yeah. Well, you guys made some really good points, which, Jay, it's funny. It was a great segue on your part because the second essay we're going to talk about is sanctuary cities. We're going to define what sanctuary cities is, and I'm going to give you an actual place where we're going to tie in kind of what we're talking about right now. So as defined per the Googles, sanctuary cities and cities and municipal laws tend to protect the undocumented, or I like to call them illegal aliens, from deportation, prosecution, despite our federal immigration laws. I obviously, as a sidebar, as I'm sure you guys do too, my in-laws, my grandfather, my mom's dad, was actually, sadly, he was looking so forward to being a United States citizen. He passed away. He actually got his certificate. He passed the test to be a citizen. And then he passed away as that was in transit. He was so excited to be a U.S. citizen. My father-in-law, who was not a U.S. citizen, but he had a green card because he was married to my mother-in-law, could not be more proud of America than this guy was. I mean, it's just unbelievable. We had many, many, many talks about, because he grew up during the Depression and he had no food, was in a bunch of St. Joseph's Villa type places, shelters as a kid. His parents were deceased. It's just, stories are so sad. So them, and like people like my father-in-law, people like my grandfather, people like one of my best friends from Ohio, Joe Milano, 87-year-old. He's one of my best friends. I love him to death. He came to America with nothing in his pockets. And now he grew this fantastic business and company in Ohio. I mean, that's the American dream, right? The American dream then to these men and women, my family members, my friends, was to come to this country and contribute, not come to this country and mooch off of the people that are paying their taxes because they're also hard workers. Anyways, so that's my diatribe on the illegal immigrations. I will call them illegals because that's exactly what they are. I watched the news tonight. It's disgusting. It's like since October, there's like 140,000 gotaways. It's disgusting. Gotaways meaning we don't even know. They came into our country. We have no idea who they are, The head of Border Patrol on the news today was talking about how he loses sleep at night. He loses sleep about the 140,000 because they don't even know where the hell they are. But again, these sanctuary cities, they're giving them shelter, right? So I don't know if our listeners know this, but let me just tell you this. So in Rochester, New York, the Holiday Inn, right on State Street, coincidentally, by the way, right next door to our U.S. federal building, they literally house illegal undocumented people that have come to this country. They're right on State Street. How do I know this? Well, one of the last events that I worked before I retired, I'm standing out there. Jay, you might have been working it too. There was some 5K, some race, whatever. The traffic was blocked off all around me. You know, I had the old guy easy post in the center of the race, whatever it was. Bobby Hill and Jeff Schroeder took care of me. Anyway, so I'm standing there and there's people walking across the street going to the hotel. And they're like, oh, yeah, do you know what's going on over there? I'm like, I have no idea what's going on at the hotel. They're like, yeah, there's a bunch of undocumented illegals in that hotel. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah. They're like, we reserved this like months ago, had no idea. We're in town for a family wedding. And they then began, which this was third party. I have not corroborated this. Then began to tell me all the disgusting things that were going on inside the hotel, you know, relative to the bathrooms and the eating situation, whatever. Anyways, so they were telling me that I had no idea that we were housing illegals in our city, inside of the city limits of Rochester. But anyway, so I found that out. So as not even prep for the pod, more out of curiosity. So I pretended I was undercover again this afternoon, and I picked up the phone and I cold called a Holiday Inn today. And I talked to the most sweetest woman at the front desk. I'm like, hey, you know, me and my wife are, you know, from Rochester, but we're coming back for a family wedding, June 9th to the 13th. I made up some bullshit dates. I say, we're coming to Rochester. Love to stay at the Holiday Inn, you know, blah, blah, wonderful place. She's like, oh yeah, I'll check. Oh yeah, hey, we got dates for you. Yeah, they were available. And then I said, hey, you know, I softened her up a little bit and I said, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but are there undocumented or illegal people? I don't want to sound. Immediately, without hesitation, she goes, yeah, they're inside of our hotel. I said, oh, great. So that led me to do a little bit more research. You know, being the mediocre detective that I am, I went one step further and I made a couple calls to some of our men and women on the streets. And shout out to my guy that I talked to just before this pod. I had no idea what's going inside that hotel. First and foremost, and I don't know if you guys are aware of this because I just found this out an hour before coming on the pod. They have New York State National Guard. They have Marine reservists inside the hotel, right? So I was talking to my contact, you know, and they were telling me, they're like, yeah, and when we go there for a call, which is very rare because they try to keep everything hush-hush. They try to keep everything within the four walls of the Holiday Inn. They don't want any bad press. And by the way, this is no slam to our National Guard, no slam to our reservists, because God bless them service. They're just put in a bad spot. But they basically told me that, yeah, when we go there, we have to sign in. As a uniformed guy working the streets, he's a cop. He has to sign in and be accountable to whatever U.S. government representative is inside that hotel, meaning the National Guard or the reservists. And he's like, you wouldn't believe the chaos. The chaos is unbelievable. We know that there's more going on inside this hotel that we don't know about because they handle it all in-house and they keep it hush-hush. The Holiday Inn people, they're just doing their job. I'm not saying that they enjoy doing this. However, they give limited access to our RPD guys, limited access to our cops, our brothers and sisters who are supposed to go there to help out whomever. But anyways, one of the stories that he told us that I wanted to share with you guys, he tells me that he pulls over two illegals, a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband and wife, whatever, male and female, right? Listen to this. Two Venezuelan illegal aliens that are in our country. They're in a nice BMW, first of all. Guess what? Illegal aliens, couple points to make. She had a card that was given to her from New York City, where they shipped them to, because apparently, according to my source, New York City is actually paying, and this is unconfirmed at this point, but I trust my source. New York City is paying and shipping people out of New York because they can't handle them. So they're shipping them to places like Rochester inside the Holiday Inn, and they're paying, New York City's paying, or the government's paying, whomever's paying for
We're
these
paying.
illegal people to be in the hotel, right? So she's got an ID. That's the second point. And they're inside a nice BMW, right? Driving a nice BMW, which, by the way, the nice BMW that they were driving was legally registered in the state of Virginia to the male in the car who is an illegal alien. You can't make this shit up. Guys, we are in bizarro world right now. This is David. When he was telling me this, I was beside myself. I can't believe that, okay, we're a sanctuary city. I get it, whatever, Democrats, we're going to do the blah, blah, blah. But now you have people inside of a hotel that are occupying a hotel. And I know why the Holiday Inn does it, right? They're probably getting gajillion dollars a month and a week for renting to the government, right? But you have just a couple that I just gave you the example of here illegally driving a nice car, you're legally registering vehicles in our country and you're not even a citizen.
Yeah, but listen, I sound like a broken record. It all comes back to the same. It's the same thing. The same people are making these decisions. All right. Yeah. It's Democratic policymakers that are allowing this to go on. It's a lack of common sense. It's insanity. I don't know any other way to put it. And people are voting for these idiots, and they get what they get. And Adam Bello, 8/18/23. Immigrants are a vital piece of the Rochester community, and the contributions they make to our city are immeasurable. First of all, tell me about how immeasurable they are. I would like to know specifics. Second of all, don't misconstrue an immigrant like my grandfather and my father-in-law and Johnny's friend there in Ohio and an illegal alien who runs across the border after being led there by a coyote, part of the cartel, and bum rushes our border and disappears into the U.S. Not the same thing. Not the same thing. That's a criminal. An immigrant is someone that goes through the lawful process of trying to be a member of the United States or to come here for a purpose and to go through the proper channels to become a U.S. citizen, or at least stay here temporarily under the right rules and regulations.
Yeah.
An illegal is someone that says, screw all that. I'm just going to bum rush the border and disappear into the United States and get my free shit. Totally different things. So it's the same people that are allowing this to happen. It's the same people that, the bail reform, it's a lawless time. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. And the same people are in charge. So if you have a problem with it, go call your Democratic politician, because this is all on them. I don't know. It's kind of redundant, but it's the same song and dance.
Yeah, it's definitely cyclical, David. We've done pods on bail reform. It does seem like we're in a circular firing squad, Jay.
Well, it's a tremendous disservice to the people who try to do it the right way, right? The people that are trying to do it the right way and to come in the country the proper way, because that's America's the great melting pot. Okay, we don't have to look long through our family's history to see that people have immigrated to this country, right? And it's a fantastic country that we
the right way.
The people, there's a reason that people are trying to come into this country and not trying to get the hell out, right? It's a fantastic country that we live in. However, it needs to be done the right way. And when we give all these benefits and the perks to these people who haven't done it the right way, number one, it's a disservice to the people who are trying to do it the right way. And these people who are doing it the wrong way all of a sudden feel that they could just cut to the front of the line and come in. And that's nonsense, right? All of a sudden, you come across the border under the cover of darkness in Texas or wherever the hell you come in, Arizona, California, you name it. And all of a sudden, you have the same rights as the people who played by the rules and tried to do it the right way and came through the litany of other places, Catholic Family Services or whatever, utilized them to get over here and try to start the right way. Those are the immigrants, right? That we should be contributing and helping to and letting them live the quote unquote American dream. But, I as much as I hate it because I'm a New York resident, right? But I love the Texas governor says, okay, you want my state to get overrun? Here you go. Here come your buses, New York City. Here come your buses, Chicago. And you guys who want this nonsense 2,500 miles away and think you're going to be, pass judgment on these southern states. Okay, here come your busloads of people. And guess what happened? The New York City mayor, who opened his mouth and said that we need to be welcoming and everything else, all of a sudden was quickly realized that they were overrun. They didn't have the ability or the resources to deal with it. And what happens? counties like Monroe and Erie and Buffalo say, okay, quietly, we're going to take these people and we're going to put them in these hotels, and we're going to put the National Guard there to guard them. I mean, again, drain on taxpayers, drains on all of us that we have to foot the bill because of a few people who think that these policies should be in place, and the border should just be this floodgate that's open and everybody can bum rush through the door.
Yeah, it's disgusting. By the way, that you mentioned Erie County, Jay. There was an actually similar hotel in Buffalo or Erie County where one of their workers was actually raped by one of these illegals. I don't know if that resonates with our politicians or not, but that's totally disgusting that they don't even talk about the negative and adverse effects that these illegals have on our communities. And of course, on our brothers and sisters in law enforcement. It just disgusts me. But so we talk about squatters, we talk about sanctuary cities, and now we got to talk about our soldiers, right? And a shout out to our soldiers, our National Guard. And, not for nothing. I mean, they're not the problem, man. They, like law enforcement, are being thrust into situations. They didn't ask for this. They didn't ask to guard hotels like my college dorm RA. This is bullshit. We're utilizing trained people, trained members of our government to go and be basically coffee mothers like I had at St. Anthony's for illegals. It's disgusting to me. And when I say our soldiers, I tip my hat to our National Guard. Come on, Kathy Hochul. I mean, here we are. We're dropping National Guard in the subway. And by the way, shout out to our NYPD, our NYSP, our state trooper guys and girls who are down in the subways with the National Guard. Again, law enforcement getting dragged into this, right? And now you have our National Guard at the southern border being treated, by the way, disgusting videos dropped all over national media about them being attacked, physically attacked, being spit on, being literally treated like dog shit. And yet these people just come into our country illegally. It disgusts me. And our soldiers literally are doing the best job that they can, And it's funny though, and I have one last comment, and you guys could comment after I say this. I love the fact that, and again, David, you're right, the Democrats, right? A certain president had requested, no, it's okay. It's your truth, right? Don't let the facts hurt your feelings, folks. We said that before. So here's the funny, a certain president requested the National Guard during 2020 and said, not requested, suggested it. And the Dems in these crazy effing cities that they were literally burning to the ground, they're like, we don't do that. We're not a police state. We're not a police state. Google it. Go on the Googles and the internets with an S, and you'll see all these people going, all these Democratic leaders going, we're not bringing in the National Guard. We're not a police state. And then that same president, what did he do after he had a feeling something was going to happen if he lost the election? All of a sudden, requested the National Guard again, and it was declined to him. Facts, again, it's not me getting on my soapbox. These are just facts. So when one side requests a National Guard, it's poo-pooed and said, oh no, man, we can't have that. We're not a police state. Then all of a sudden, we're not a police state, and they're walking around our subways in one of our major cities. And now you have them at the border now. This is crazy, David. Come on, man.
It's crazy, but it is, it's also a little, not from the soldier's perspective, but for the fact that she did it, because those guys are trained in certain areas, but a soldier is not a cop. Instead of supporting the NYPD and the New York State Police that are in the subways and empowering law enforcement and giving all the tools and the manpower they need to get the subway systems in New York under control and to push back on the Democratic legislators under her, when speaking of the governor, under her, and saying, okay, this is where I draw the line. We have to take control of the subways. Crime is up, perception of violence and not wanting to ride the subways is at an all-time high. No, she doesn't do that. She brings the National Guard in to try to attempt to make it look and appear that it's safe. But these guys aren't trained cops. There's a skill set. Sorry, folks, believe it or not, there is a skill set to being a cop on the street and working in these areas, and what you see and the experience you have, the eye you get to what you look for and what you know legally you can and cannot do, and how you move through the levels of probable cause, etc. There's an expertise to that. And these soldiers are being placed in a very difficult position because they don't have that expertise. They're soldiers. Their training is totally different. Just like I wasn't a soldier, I was a city cop, not a soldier. So it's again, instead of empowering the police, supporting the police, backing the police, giving them, hey, going to the commissioner, New York City Police Department, what do you need? How can I help? You need more money? Do you need more manpower? Do you need me to push back on the legislature? What do you need? No. She signs up and brings the National Guard in for the dog and pony show. It's total bullshit.
Jay, we had the 3 S's here, brother. We had the squatters, sanctuary cities, and our soldiers. Bring us home, brother.
Well, it's a real simple, brief answer. What we need is the ability to allow the police to be the police in New York City. Not even just in New York City, in New York State. But New York City, why are the subways so violent? Well, because we arrest people and we can't hold them. We don't hold them. They're charged with violent crimes, violent assaults, guns, knives, drugs, you name it, and we don't hold anybody. And this is what happens as a result, right? So you're seeing it. It's not made up. We're not talking about doom and gloom. This is what the results are. So now maybe take a step back, right? And take a look at what has happened as a result of all these great ideas that we had, and we see how they're impacting people who are trying to go to work and live their lives and are being violently assaulted. And by the way, 2 of them were subway conductors. One was stabbed in the neck, and the only reason he survived was there was a doctor on that train who rendered aid and saved that conductor's life. I mean, what are we doing here? What are we doing? Give these cops the ability to hold these people, force accountability, and force accountability on the politicians who think that this is a good idea, because it's terrible.
Yeah, well said, boys. Well said. Great pod. Listen, thank you for listening to the Crime Dawg Podcast. We hope you stick around with us for future episodes. If you like this episode, subscribe to our YouTube page, the Crime Dawg Podcast. Go to our website, thecrimedawgpodcast.com. and leave us some video, text messages, audio, you name it, in the feedback section. Give us any kind of questions, feedback, anything, topics you want to hear. Thanks for listening. But like my brother-in-law, Frankie Grassi, says, if you can't make it next time, who cares?